told him. I've written to him. Got a lawyer friend of mine to write the letter. He put it all down, all in order. But they'd take a blind bit of notice today, Hella's like.
It's bureaucracy, that's what. Bureaucracy.
Yeah. I mean, I've told him, if you want this job done properly, you've got to get a skilled man. If you want a skilled man, you've got to pay him.
Quite right.
I mean, I work all hours, and they know it. Just because I've got a sense of responsibility, I'll get taken advantage of. I mean, what would happen if I gave in my notice, eh?
Oh, they'd be in a mess. That's where they'd be.
No, it's the same with anyone on a fixed wage. I mean, cost of everything goes up, but if you're on a fixed wage, that never catches up.
Well, it's happening all over the place, if you're on a fixed wage.
Work all hours. Not as if I get paid so much a time. Just a fixed wage. The more I work, less the money buys.
Bread's gone up again?
Yeah, not only bread, every bloody thing. I mean, I'll go home in the evening, my wife, she no longer says, what have you been doing today? When's your pay going up, she says. Says she can't manage. I suppose she's right. Right, let's see if it's working. You pull her up, I'll check her. I don't know, I should be saving money. Not skipping off, starving.
All right.
Yeah, I'll just check up.
An important day today.
Today's a big one.
Well, we've made history again. God knows. And often enough, a government has changed the law in order to bring a criminal to trial. I've done it myself. But never before has a government changed the law in the middle of the trial itself to get a conviction. What's the matter with you all? You're only going to die. Nothing serious. Another letter to your wife?
If just once more I could... What will they do to Lucille?
Nothing. They'll forget her. Isn't Lucille thereafter? It's us.
It's you.
Yes. Come on, we've had full lives, all of us.
We loved each other so much that we could easily have...
For sake, do we have to spend our last hour on earth listening to him? You think you're the only one who's ever had a woman?
Don't understand.
There's a woman who loves me, an Errol and Westerman. And as for Danton, give him 2 more years, there'll be another army call for France in 20 years' time.
Isn't like that.
Who was it who wrote the article that betrayed us? This perpetual adolescence here,
Yes,
that's
perhaps,
who...
but when the moment came, he could have stuck out. He could have stayed with Robespierre, but he didn't. He stood up to be counted with me. Come on, we can't complain about anything. We've taken Europe by the scruff of its neck. We've shaken it till kings fell out like lice. We've worked hard, we've fought hard. We've loved, we've been loved. Now it's time to rest.
I suppose so. There's so much left to be done.
It's not up to us to do it, not anymore.
Where did it all go wrong?
Oh, no doubt the historians will be able to tell us now.
When we stormed the Bastille, it all seemed so simple. They hoisted the white flag and the mob went mad. Then they opened fire on us again and the mob wavered. A few of us went on onto the wall. I was the second man to reach the wall. I remember looking down on that mob. And from that height, it didn't look like a mob anymore. It looked like... I don't know. You're the poet. Poet.
I just finished the best thing I've ever written. The Maltese Orange. And now the police have taken it. Who's going to claim he wrote it?
Oh, soon you won't just be writing about bloody oranges. You'll be helping to manure them.
Well, I looked down on that mob. All right, they were leaderless, and they stand, and they weren't trained for anything. But they were willing to give their lives for freedom. And that gave them a sort of beauty. It all seemed so simple then. When we executed the king, it seemed the last barrier was down. But then all that suffering, all that blood, And what emerged? Robespierre. What happened to the simplicity of it all? While you were the government, God knows there was chaos enough all around you. But it still seemed simple.
Oh, when we were fighting on the frontiers, I used to ask the men what they thought they were fighting for. They knew. They weren't intellectual or anything, they just blurted it out, but they did know. They knew what they wanted.
But not now. Now we just go on fighting and starving. Every day the mob watches the men who led it being guillotined. It doesn't mean anything anymore.
It was different when you were there. When you were there, we all felt there was a pattern to it all.
Well, as La Pompadour said, after her, the deluge. After me, the shower.
No, he's evil, Robespierre. He's like Hébert.
No, Robespierre's like Hébert. Hébert was evil, Robespierre isn't evil. It's just little. Little. Mustn't ever hand over the country to little men. Dwarves crawling over Europe like flies in a map. No guts, no vision, nothing.
All that philosophy of his.
Philosophy, but no understanding. Ideals and a void.
What ideals at that? All from Rousseau.
He and Saint-Just. I think they're the only two men I've ever met I never felt I could influence. And I don't mean make them agree with me. Not necessarily. But make them realize that there might be another point of view. Now, Robespierre never in his life thrust his hand into the soil, crumbled it between his fingers and felt the power in it. And to him, the soil is just part of an economic theory. But that rabble that you and I and Westerman here took and turned into the finest army on earth, the army that conquered the 9 nations, all the kings and emperors of Europe. All right, that army felt as I did about the soil. It was the soil itself they were fighting for. My God, it makes me puke when I hear Robespierre talking about nature. He's no idea what it bloody is. When I was 2, I was suckling a cow. A blasted bull got angry, ripped my face open with its horn. When I was 6, I was trampled on by a herd of pigs. As if that wasn't enough, when I was 17, I was tossed by another bull. But that's what nature is. Strength, hunger, violence.
Little men? The most dangerous man in the world is the man who's dedicated and wrong.
Hmm? Well, when the guillotine Robespierre, and make no mistake about it, they will. When it's his head that drops into the basket, it won't be blood that pulses out of his neck. It will be a thin, grey fluid. Just like that bread soup we used to make when the bread was so tough you couldn't even cut it with an axe.
Yeah, and it won't pulse either. It'll dribble.
Soiling the last of those bloody beautiful cravats he's so proud of. I remember walking with he and Saint-Just one evening along by the Seine. I think that's when he started hating me. And all evening he and Saint-Just had been blathering on about nature, virtue. And frankly, I'd had enough second-hand Jean-Jacques Rousseau for one evening. Thank you very much.
Surely nature must be as an absolute in itself, or an aspect of the supreme being. An imperfect copy, yes. So that when we worship liberty, are we worshipping something that is identical to nature, antipathetic to it, or unrelated to it? That is a question we must all consider.
Yes, we must indeed. And the moment I've managed to find food supplies for my troops at the front, I'll worry about nothing else.
But since we have decided on the true concept of virtue as described by Rousseau, there remains only to exterminate those members of the former clergy who refuse to take the oath to the Constitution. Then the remainder can fulfill a useful role in society once again.
Well, where I come from, the people, the peasants, to them the only moments of happiness in their lives are given them by the priests.
But Rousseau has proved that the priests are peddling lies, dreams.
I dare say he has. I say it's treason against a nation to take away its dream.
I'm not sure you understand what treason is.
No.
There are 2 kinds of citizen, the good and the bad.
Huh.
The good, to them the Republic owes its protection. To the bad, it owes only death. Later, we will organize a rational society.
Oh, that'll appeal to the peasants.
At the age of 5, boys will be taken from their parents and raised in battalions. When they are 16, they will become either workers or soldiers.
What about the girls? Who's allowed to roll the girls, then?
Whether a man is a leader or a worker, he will live in the same way. He will wear clothing that is strong and serviceable but coarse, and he will sleep on a straw mat.
You're alone by the sound of it. It's a pity. The rational society will die out after a generation.
Our immediate problem is to persuade the peasants to discard their superstitious beliefs. That is the greatest problem facing France.
Really? Now, you listen. We need those peasants the way they are. Without them, there is no France. If you were as wretched, as poor, as hungry as they are, and you knew damn well, as they know damn well, that you're going to die as wretched, as poor, as hungry as you've lived, come on, you'd cling to anything that seemed majestic. All right, so it is a fiction. It is an illusion. Teach them if you want to. But don't take away from them the only thing they have that makes them want to go on living at all.
There's no point in discussing the techniques of establishing an ideal society until we have decided and defined exactly what that society is to be. Then anything that deviates from that ideal...
From truth.
From truth. Whatever it is, whoever it is that deviates, can be identified and removed, which leads us to the question of virtue as Rousseau used the word. Virtue is
what I do with my wife every night. Good night.
How can such an immoral man possibly be entrusted with power?
And he meant it. He meant every bloody word of it.
He sees himself as God. I thought we'd abolished God.
No, Robespierre isn't God.
No, he isn't.
Robespierre will prove himself greater than God.
What do you mean?
Well, as soon as he's got rid of us, he's going to announce the existence of a supreme being. He and Saint-Just are working the whole thing out. There's going to be an announcement ex cathedra by Robespierre. God exists. Then there will be the most spectacular ceremony since Louis XIV. And at the head of the procession, his green face set off against white robes, will be Robespierre. Looking, I imagine, rather like a colourless blancmange. But that's why Robespierre will prove himself greater than God. Took God 7 days to create the universe. It'll take Robespierre 1 day to create God. I'm only sorry we shan't be there to see him.
I never understood what was happening to the church. I heard about it when we were fighting on the frontiers. Heard about it and felt sick.
Well, they can blame us for a lot of things, but they can't blame us for that.
Listen, Westerman, the last few years they've been like a storm. Changed the intellectual coastline of Europe. Throw up a scum on the shore.
Hébert.
Yeah.
Yes, Hébert for one. But even Hébert obviously was mad. But even he acted as a sort of purge. That orgy in Notre Dame where the women were stripped from the waist up, men from the waist down. And that purged something out of the mob, didn't it? That lunatic newspaper of his. All right, when we tried Marie Antoinette and he wrote those stories about how she slept with her children.
We weren't fighting for his right to publish that.
She was going to be guillotined anyway. But perhaps it was better that all that hatred should find some way out, somewhere, some outlet, instead of being buried in the mind of every potential lunatic in Paris. And the way he died, when they saw how their hero died, that purged something too.
My God, the blood that's been shed.
And now it will be ours.
Hey, Shakespeare! You got your curtain speech ready here?
Now once, more than once, they pelted me with flowers after a play.
It's a nuance of the old regime, no longer practiced, I'm afraid.
They carried me on their shoulders through the streets.
Well, we haven't the men to spare for that sort of thing nowadays. Something to do with shortage of manpower, I think.
Aren't you at all afraid?
No. What's there to be afraid of? I mean, looking back, I would have been afraid of being wounded when I was in the army, but never had time to think about it. Death, what's death? During the September massacres, there were bodies piled so high in this prison you couldn't get in. And not that I particularly wanted to. And later they say the warders used to show the prisoners around. Show them how deep the bodies had lain. Sort of high water mark. One evening I thought the river itself was blood. It was only the sunset, a trick of the light.
I still think they'll save us.
Why should Robespierre make an exception in our case?
Not our case, your case. People won't let him.
Oh.
The moment they see you in the tumbrel, they'll rise. Robespierre knows that.
Perhaps that's why they haven't passed sentence on
They've passed it, they just haven't read it, that's all.
No. Perhaps Father is right. Perhaps, what's his name? The governor.
Ducret.
Yeah, perhaps Ducret's been told to keep quiet, not to risk it. Look, I know my troops. If they think you're in danger, you've only got to lift a finger, they'll serve you Robespierre for breakfast.
You're not dealing with troops, you're dealing with the Paris mob.
Not even the mob. I hope they can't have as short memories as that.
Bread and circuses. And as Robespierre isn't being very successful in giving them bread, he deals with the circuses. In this case, the guillotine.
They'll save us.
We'll see.
Barbara d'Eglinton,
What do you want?
you are to come with me.
I'm not going. I'm not going till you tell me what it's for.
You heard me. Move!
It's not time. You've no right.
Do as I tell you.
You can't separate us now. I'm not well. Can't you see I'm not going. My head is splitting.
You won't have a headache in a few hours. Go on, it's Ducret. He wants to read your sentence. Go on. Go.
Are you coming, or do I have to come down there and get you?
Why do you want me? Why me? Why not him?
Don't worry. We'll get round to him later. We'll get round to you all later. Now you get him, move on! Go on, up upstairs!
Some bloody royalists died better than he's going to.
No. He's a poet. Temperamental. He'll be all right.
Let's hope so.
He'll be all right. I've always envied poets. Or people who could write. Me, I could talk and talk. I could never write. Assembly after assembly, all those orations based on Cicero. Then the round of applause and the assembly votes to have the speech printed. Of course, I never had a speech for them to print. Then one day I decided to write a speech for myself.
What happened?
Huh? I sat in my room at home and in front of the mirror and I tried it out myself. In the whirling vortex which is the National Assembly today, the national entity today, I implore this assembly, nay, this august assembly, nay, the whole body, social, all that crap. Anyway, suddenly I felt very tired. Funny, I used to be an insomniac. A few sessions with Robespierre soon cured me of that. Anyway, suddenly I felt tired, and when I woke up, it was dark outside. The fire had gone out. What shook me was that, according to the notes in my lap, I'd gone on rehearsing my speech for 20 minutes after I'd fallen asleep. Well, that's Robespierre's secret. Everybody else is exhausted, and he isn't. He catnaps during his own speeches.
Nobody else. Nobody else dares sleep when Robespierre speaks.
No.
If you're going to be betrayed, it's as well to be awake at the moment it happens. At least you know what hit you.
And now there's nobody left to stop him.
God, what sort of country does he want?
Oh, yeah, I'm just a soldier.
You are more than that.
No, not really. But the rest of you. The man who actually started the revolution, who instigated the attack on the Bastille. The man who framed the Constitution, which we're still all supposed to be working towards. And poor Fabre.
Well, he wrote the Republican calendar, didn't he?
Yeah. And you, the man who was France. When we're all dead, who's going to stop him?
He'll stop himself. As he's saying, he is the people. The people will stop him. Don't worry, his head will be the next in the basket. The
reign of virtue. Virtue is the natural quality of the people.
A fine definition.
Yes. You've heard nothing more about reactions?
No. There would have been reactions if the trial had gone its full course. It was Danton's voice that was the danger.
Keep the neckline clean? He had to be stopped. It was impossible for the trial to continue.
His voice carried right across the river.
He was used to shouting. Shouting, not reasoning.
I didn't believe it myself at first, when they told me that his voice could be heard not just in the corridors of the hall, but actually across the river. But then I went to see for myself. It was very dangerous.
Who was listening?
There was quite a crowd there, but when they saw me, most of them dispersed.
Not too much powder on the wig. Yesterday when I went out into the street, it blew all over the place. People still don't realize that a man who was a hero 2 years ago has now become the greatest traitor in the country. It all sounds very attractive, Danton's policy. Clemency for the prisoners. But that means that men who might be our enemies will escape. An amnesty for the deputies we expelled? Of course they started the revolution. But they have been left behind. Now they are the enemies of the revolution. Introduce the Constitution? Certainly, but not yet. We are still in danger. Peace. We'd all like peace, but we must not have peace until the revolution is safe. Freedom of trade so that Fabre d'Eglantine can make some more money on the side? What is that remark you heard Camille Desmoulins say?
I didn't actually hear him say it, but it was reliably reported. He said that he was sure that there was a great deal of poverty about, but that he himself had never found it so easy to make money.
Yes, I think when history realizes he said that, it will understand why he had to die.
What was worse, he said it as a joke.
Listen to this. Do you think this puts it well? If the basis of government in the time of peace is virtue, the basis in time of revolution is virtue plus terror. Without virtue, terror is disastrous. Without terror, virtue is powerless.
Exactly right.
I shall have it printed. What we have to teach the people is that the terror is justified. In fact, it's inevitable. Because without the terror, the revolution will become static. Indeed, we must intensify the terror to give the revolution new momentum. The people's vision was becoming clouded because the courts of law were developing into debating chambers, each side anxious not to secure justice, but to win.
Well, we saw that with Danton. He wasn't appealing to the court, he was appealing to the mob outside.
As Rousseau proved, the ideal man is latent in every man. Therefore, the ideal society is latent in every society. So when society accuses a man of a crime against itself, it's irrelevant whether or not he's allowed to defend himself. The mere fact that society accused him in the first place is evidence of his guilt. If he were not guilty, he would have nothing to fear from the court, which is simply society acting as law. I think the people are beginning to understand. There have been no demonstrations for Danton. They're beginning to realize that personal feelings must be subjugated. Danton was a school friend of mine. I wrote to him a year ago, "I shall love you till I die." And I shall. But now he's become an obstacle in the course of revolution. He preaches moderation in a world of absolutes.
The tumbril will pass just outside your house.
That look all right?
Fine.
Sanson's a good craftsman. He's the best executioner we have. He's so overworked he sometimes makes a mess of getting the haircut properly.
How will he hack Lucille's?
He won't.
I've a lock of her hair in here. If they take me first and my hands are tied, promise me you'll put this locket in my hands.
Yeah.
Promise me.
Yes.
She gave it me on the day we became engaged. I know what they say. Hébert and all the others, all right. Her family was rich and I was hungry. It was her dowry that set me up, that's true. But we loved each other so much.
You couldn't expect Hébert to understand that. Robespierre, I doubt if he's ever had a woman in his life.
You don't understand either.
No.
The only reason I'm afraid of dying is what'll happen to her and to my son.
Nothing will happen to the man.
When she went to ask her parents' permission, so little to offer then. She was so beautiful. If you just saw her for a moment, you'd have to fall in love with her. And I waited and I waited. I tried to read anything to take my mind off what was happening in the next room. I couldn't believe that I'd be so fortunate. For 8 years I've loved Lucille, but no man is entitled to find so much happiness on this earth. It's almost blasphemy to find heaven before you die. Her eyes were filled with tears of happiness. I've never seen anything so beautiful. What will happen to her?
Nothing. Nothing will happen to her.
Do you think they'll let her receive these letters?
Yes, of course they will.
If I could just see her just once more. My son.
Listen, it's better that she stays indoors with a friend, not in her own home. It would be safer for her. It would be safer for her.
Jean-Jacques Danton.
Yes.
You're wanted.
Who the hell do you think you're talking to? To your bloody button. And stand to attention when you talk to me, man! The hell do you think you are? And that's more like it. Now, what do you want?
It's Governor Ducret, sir. He wishes to read your sentence to you, sir.
Does he?
Yes, sir.
Well, what are you standing there for? Lead me to him.
Sir! Prisoner Danton, sir.
We know each other? Didn't expect to see you, though, George.
I thought I ought to come.
I mean, Robespierre thought you ought to come. Let's get on with it.
You are Georges-Jacques Danton of Commercial Square, Paris? Well?
I am indeed Danton. Very shortly I shan't be living anywhere, but you'll find my name in Valhalla.
I shall now read the indictment.
Can't you summarize it? I have an engagement, you see.
There are several sections to the indictment. The first charges you with having supported Dumouriez, who proved to be an enemy of France and deserted to the enemy, and charges that you were involved in his plans to march on Paris, overthrow the Republic, and restore the monarchy.
But as the coward who dare say this to my face, one witness, just one witness.
You are not here to make speeches. You are here to listen to the indictment.
You think seriously, hand on heart, Georges, that I am a conspirator? I see he smiled. He smiled to get Robespierre to put that down in his journal.
Will you be quiet and listen to the indictment?
Couton thinks the idea is ludicrous, don't you?
Sir, tell the guard commander to be ready. I may order this prisoner to be bound and gagged while I read the indictment.
Sir!
You'd got to the bit about my restoring the monarchy, all the more poignant because I was the man most responsible for overthrowing it.
You are further charged that on various occasions you received sums of money from Mirabeau and the Count of Orleans.
Not that old chestnut.
Thereby selling yourself to the counter-revolutionary forces.
Selling myself?
Be quiet!
Selling myself? A man such as I has no price, has he, Georges?
I have been very patient with you.
One witness that anything I've ever done in my life was affected by the fact that various stupid people would think it a good investment to give me money. One witness, come on.
You are yourself reported as saying that a revolution is like a war, and that it follows that the spoils should be divided among the victors.
What's that got to do with it? If you're suggesting that the aristocrats should be given back all their property, I wouldn't let Robespierre hear you say that.
That is no answer to the charge.
No, I console myself with the fact that my standard of living has cost this country a hell of a lot less than the incorruptibility of Robespierre.
This attitude isn't helping you. If you were innocent, you'd remain calm.
Calm? You expect me to be calm? I'm accused by God knows who without any witnesses. I'm not even allowed to call witnesses at my own trial. I'm not even allowed to speak at my own trial. Saint-Just makes off with all the so-called bloody evidence that he can before the jury is retired, and you expect me to be calm.
You spoke enough at your trial?
Enough? I hadn't even started. And then they declared my defense closed.
You were plotting a revolt of the prisoners.
Not even you believe that.
We had evidence.
Evidence?
You were making a farce of your trial.
Believe you me, if I'd had 2 hours more, I'd have torn this whole bloody stinking tyranny down with my own bare hand.
Ah! Now you admit you were trying to overthrow the Republic.
No, I wanted to save it.
You will save it with your death.
Well, if I believed that, I'd sacrifice my life at any time.
The old France was like a beautiful, ramshackle building rotten with woodworm. It had gone beyond the point where we could continue propping it up, replacing bits here and there as it fell to pieces. It had to come down. All of it.
And the main beam of that building was the king. And the man most responsible for tearing that main support away was Danton.
We are not here to discuss what happened in...
No, citizen. Let us talk. After all, your voice can't carry far from here.
I doubt if whatever I'd say would make any difference to you anyway.
No, you're right. You tore down the monarchy. You tore down a government that stretched back to the days of Rome. But you had nothing to put in its place. You had no philosophy, no ideals, except woolly words like liberty and equality. You simply unleashed the mob, the screaming women of Paris who tore living men apart and ate the pieces in the streets.
I used the mob. It was the only weapon the revolution had.
Of course. But now that the ramshackle France is crashing all around us, you're saying, stop. Let's keep the best bits. Let's see if there isn't something here worth preserving.
I just think enough blood has been shed, you see, Georges, that's all.
The people. Not the mob, but those who can still think. For them, you are the greatest hero in France.
Yes, they know I'd die for them because I love them.
Ah. But when they see you hesitating in your demolition, they hesitate too. Now you must retire. And let others continue to burn out the rot and filth from the ruins. Then we can build again.
You'll have nothing left to build with.
You say you love the people. But you once said that public opinion is a whore.
Now, how do you know what I said?
Robespierre told me.
Oh, Robespierre, that bloody little gossip.
But is that the remark of a man who loves the people?
Of course it is. You can love the people and understand them, can't you?
The people will learn by your death that they cannot stop halfway.
Halfway to what?
The promised land.
How are we going to recognize this place when we get there, then? So all we have at the moment is terror, more terror, blood by the bucket, blood by the gallon. One after one by one, the men who created the revolution. God, you'll have a society of eunuchs. This is not what they will stand for. This is not what they gave their lives for at the frontier. They will not stand for it. They did not tear down the Bastille in order to build up the bloody guillotine. They did not do that.
If you shout like that, I'll have you gagged.
Gagged? You're going to have me executed.
The people for whom you're the self-appointed spokesman. Surely you'll admit they're not so stupid as to allow their own interests to be destroyed.
Of course they're not.
Then, if you're taken out this evening in the tumbril...
If you mean when?
Well, I don't know. I haven't heard the sentence of the court yet. You haven't let Ducret finish reading it.
Oh, I thought you wrote it.
Of course not. But if, as you believe, you are still the spokesman of the people, you have nothing to fear. Surely they will save their leader.
No, I am too close for them now to save me.
You seem to have a very low opinion of the people.
I love them.
It must be a very one-sided love if they're not prepared to raise a finger to help you.
Well, you'd never understand. You never would you?
The people love Robespierre.
Oh, don't be absurd. You can't love a creature like Robespierre. The people fear him. They may respect him, which is an error of judgment on their parts. But you can't love an obsession made flesh like Robespierre.
They love him like they love God, something different from themselves. You, as you admit, are like them, only bigger. Robespierre is above them. He represents not their desires, but their ideals. He only has to look through his eyeglasses at the assembly and they fall silent.
Yes, because they're rabbits, terrified of him.
No, because he makes them conscious of their own inadequacies.
He makes them conscious of their necks.
That, too.
With great respect, sir, I have to read many other indictments and sentences this afternoon.
Yes, of course. Believe me, the last service you can do for France is to die for her.
Then France has been well served lately, hasn't she?
We will continue this conversation later.
In heaven?
Possibly.
Well, I don't believe in heaven. It sounds so tedious. Saints and simpletons, pure in mind, pure in heart, all at cross purposes for eternity. I believe in Valhalla. See you shortly, George. My God, what a mess. If only I could leave my legs to Couton and my balls to Robespierre, there'd still be some hope for France. Well, let's get on with the indictment.
It is further charged that you, in association with others, were responsible...
And so on, and so on, and so on.
Is there any truth in it?
Is there?
Well, it depends what you call truth, doesn't it? Yes, of course I'd taken money. I'd have taken it from anyone fool enough to give it to me. I didn't have an income of my own. I had no money of my own. I like the things money can buy. But it never made any difference to what I did.
And the other things?
Well, most of it was lunatic. Why anybody should think I'd take the trouble to overthrow the monarchy in order to restore it again must be mad.
Well, I was a bit shaken by some of the things that cropped up at the trial.
Why are you looking at me?
So, Fabre has sticky fingers.
Yes, but you yourself...
As they pointed out in the trial, there is, God knows, how much money I can't account for. I don't happen to have the mind of a bank clerk.
No, but there was some evidence. I'm not suggesting
Now
it's
listen,
true.
I was trying to control a revolution! There was a civil war going on. France was fighting every major power in Europe. You expect me to produce a bloody balance sheet with that lot on my plate? Of course I'd taken every penny I could lay my hands on, and I spent it on France. Am I supposed to account for it all? Item to bribing an enemy general, so much. Item to spies, so much. You can either have a revolution or a balance sheet. You can't have both.
Oh, Danton, it's just that the ideals...
Oh, God, the ideals, hello, the ideals, all clear-cut, all neat. No two ways about it, and simple. But people aren't like that, you see. Nobody is. Except perhaps Robespierre and Saint-Just. Festerman, you know what it was like. You know what it was like with the army. Ideals, they're no substitute for ammunition, officers, arms, food.
Who are you, then?
Danton, keep your head down.
God. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't recognize you in the dark.
We wasn't expecting anybody except bloody Austrians.
What company are you?
Company? We're the 4th Battalion, sir.
Where's your battalion headquarters, then?
Here. We're all that's left of it.
Are there any reinforcements coming, sir?
Only we're nearly out of ammunition and all the officers is dead.
Or surrendered?
We should have been relieved 3 days ago. Are they coming, sir?
Oh, no, don't ask me. Ask the Minister for War. Have a swig of that. It's the real stuff. Have you seen Fabre d'Eglantine?
We haven't seen nobody, not since yesterday morning. Thanks, sir.
Oh, this is bloody ridiculous. According to regimental headquarters, there isn't an Austrian within half a mile of here.
Ah, there's a little wood just over there, sir. Of course, you can't see it at night. But there's Austrians there, all right.
Yeah, I know. They took a shot at me. Listen, where's Fabre? He should be here. We're supposed to meet. He's to take a message back to Paris for me.
We haven't seen nobody.
To be honest, sir, we was thinking of using up our ammunition and chucking it in.
I don't blame you. Listen, I've got to get this message back. I think you right.
Yes, I can write, sir, but I can't walk too good.
All right.
I can take the message back, sir.
Right. Sergeant, you write the message. You take it back to regimental headquarters. I'll give you a cover note. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Right. Paragraph. To the Executive Council of Ministers from Jean-Jacques Danton, 14th of February, 1793. Paragraph. I have to report that despite General de Moreau's successes in Belgium against overwhelming odds, the army has been reduced to an exhausted, starving, ill-equipped rabble. De Moreau was promised 30,000 men as reinforcements and replacements for his armies. Not one man so far has reached him. Am I going too fast for you?
No, it's all right, sir. I'm enjoying this.
For several weeks, his communications to Paris have been completely ignored. The troops are without warm clothing in the severe winter. All are desperately short of arms and ammunition. Most of them are without boots. Am I going too fast for you? paragraph.
Will it do any good, sir?
It did better. When I left Paris, the Ministry for War was like a bloody brothel. 400 clerks and a whole lot of whores. But I've cleared that lot off. This is the last thing.
Danton.
Yeah, in here. Where have you been?
God for that. I thought you were the enemy.
Our friend here nearly shot you.
George, it was a message for you. Demurray's headquarters.
Later, I'm dictating a message.
It's a personal message.
I'm going to find 7th Brigade and you can take it back from me. Where was I?
Short of both arms and ammunition, sir. Then you wanted a new paragraph.
Right, go on, go on. It has been reported to Dumouriez that the Minister for War has handed over the arms intended for the armies in Belgium to the Paris Commune. Go on. He's been reported to have said, quote, patriots at home need arms too, unquote. If this is indeed true, and the armies in Belgium are now to be left defenseless, so that the Paris mob can be armed for some internal partisan quarrel, then the government must be prepared for the collapse of the army, the invasion of the country, and the overthrow of the Republic. Right?
Yes.
Right, Sergeant. Write it out neatly and I'll sign it. Right, thank you.
George, it's about Gabrielle.
Yes, I know she's ill. She's always ill when she's pregnant. Listen, I'm going to write a separate report on the behavior of civilian administrators here. I think Dumouriez said about as much as he can take.
Your wife is very
Troops
ill.
were welcomed as liberators, then along came the civilians. Churches are ransacked, women are raped. They steal every bloody thing they can lay their hands on. I think Dumouriez is at breaking point. I really do.
Listen to me. Your wife is very ill.
You told me.
She's dying.
Oh, Gabrielle.
Gabrielle. Gabrielle. Gabrielle. Gabrielle!
Gabrielle, where is she? What have you done with Gabrielle? What have you done with the old bitches? Where is she?
told you.
Where is she?
6 days ago.
What have you done with her?
6 days ago, we buried her.
You're lying, you old bitch. You're lying to me. Open the coffin. I am Danton. When I give you an order, you obey me. Open the coffin. Oh, my Gabrielle. Oh, my Gabrielle. Oh, God. Anyway, that was when I failed.
Doesn't failure to be human?
Oh. Well, yes. That's when I failed, though. See, I didn't ask to be given power. I seized it. I held France in my hands like a newborn calf. I had the power of a tyrant, of a god, didn't I? The revolution lived or died by what I did. Or whether the armies flamed across Europe or threw away their guns, it was my decision, wasn't it? Or whether the peasants starved as they had done for a generation or lived like princes, it was up to me. Or whether the aristocrats crept out of their holes and slithered back to power. Or whether the madness that lies below the rage of the people, whether that turned France into a nation of vampires to be spat at for the rest of the human race, it was my decision. I had to hold the balance. France was squirming in my hands, wasn't it? I needed the strength of God. And I only had the strength of a man. And now, just because for a moment I was tired...
No man could have done more.
Well, anyway, now it's the age of maggots. Filthy little white crawling things. And now people can no longer stand and demand justice. They have to beg for it, you see.
Soon the revolution will be safe.
Yes. It seems right that the last traces of the Ancien Regime should disappear with the sunset.
And with the new day, the reign of virtue.
Then at last the people will understand. That man is still selling his leaflet.
What leaflet?
I thought you knew. He was in the Rue Saint-Antoine when I was coming to see you. One of the people who had bought the leaflet from him handed it to me. I got his name as well as the name of the man who was selling it.
What does it say?
It's just doggerel. When Danton, Desmoulins, and d'Eglantine were ferried over to the world unseen, the boatman, Charon, when the boat was underway, tried to hand them back the change from the toll they had to pay. Keep it, cried Danton. It will help to pay the fare for Coutan, Saint-Just, and Robespierre.
There is still far too much of this sort of thing. I must be patient. I tell myself every day that I am building for eternity. So I must not be impatient when the people cannot see what I can see. But how can they be so blind? How can they still respect a man like Danton? With his grossness and his vulgarity and his filthy jokes and his appetites. That booming voice of his, always shouting, never thinking. I tell you, I put up with a great deal from that man. I've endured his coarseness, yet I never attacked him. I never humiliated him the way he humiliated me. And not just in private, in front of everybody. He's an animal, not a man. Food and women and drink, just like an animal. And the people loved him for it.
But it is his head that will fall into the basket.
Yes, in the end, virtue will win.
One by one, we have removed the enemies of virtue. In time, the people will understand.
We are right. Because we are working not for ourselves, but for an ideal. We've had France in our hands and have taken nothing for ourselves. I live exactly as I used to live when I was still a young lawyer. The same rooms, the same food, everything. You know as well as I do the number of women who approach me. But I've never taken advantage of one of them. Danton loves violence. He was never happier than when he was with the army. But I hate violence.
It is a means to an end. The only means we can use.
I'm physically sick at the sight of violence. But I realize I must ignore this. Every drop of blood spilt, I feel like vomiting. But I know what has to be done. What I feel, that isn't important. And the people, do they think I enjoy sending people to the guillotine? Not just Danton, but Camille, my friends.
But it is because of that, because the people realize that you will do what is right, however much it costs you, that they have given you power.
Nobody there.
He's there, I know he's there.
This is my house. You've no right.
Right. You talk of right.
I'm warning you. I'll call the police.
I don't care what you do. I must talk to Robespierre.
You know as well as I do he never sees anybody.
Please, please help me. I only want to talk to him. He can't really mean to kill Camille. Please help me. Let me go up and see him. I promise I won't do anything. I'll try to be quick. But I must see him. I'm sure if he understood, he'd do something.
By refusing to allow myself to be swayed by...
It's Lucille Desmoulins.
Lock the door.
Please, Max, it's Lucille. Please let me in.
Please, Max, listen to me. I know you think he turned against you, but it wasn't like that.
I don't understand. Camille never wanted to harm you. I know he's young and irresponsible. But he loves you, Max. Really, he loves you.
Often he's talked about you, how he admires you. All his writing, all except that one article. He did it to support you. He's always wanted the same things that you wanted. Everything he's done, he only did it because he thought it was the right thing to do.
It won't do any good.
Max, please listen to me. Camille is your best friend. He's always tried to help you. He believes in you, Max. He trusts you.
This is proof of what I submitted at the trial. She is part of a conspiracy to free the prisoners.
Yes?
Camille has a great deal of charm. No one can deny that. But you can tell what sort of a man he really is from that satire he wrote of my poem.
I've done a great deal for him.
I know.
When he wrote that article attacking me, I leant over backwards to be merciful. I did everything I could to save him from his own folly. In front of everybody, I said, even though he had written it, even though it was libelous, even though he said, not just hinted, but said openly, that I was imprisoning and indeed guillotining innocent people, even then, because he was my friend, I was merciful.
I remember. I think your action was the noblest gesture I have ever seen.
I said, I risked humiliation saying it. I said that because it was Camille, all that was necessary was that the article should be publicly burned. And he dared to stand up and say...
To burn is not to reply.
He had the audacity to throw the immortal words of Jean-Jacques Rousseau at me.
Hubris, the unforgivable sin of pride.
It was only then I decided he had to die.
He only did what you asked him to. He attacked Hébert because you asked him to. And Danton. He even attacked Danton because you asked him to.
He can't hear you.
He loves Danton, Max. Yet when you asked him to, he wrote and destroyed him. Doesn't that prove how much he respects you? Doesn't it? Max, please let me in!
Yesterday, Lucille Desmoulins was outside the gates of the prison with her baby. She said it was so Camille might have a last glimpse of the child, but obviously it was all part of this conspiracy to free Camille and Danton, the other traitors.
I'm very fond of that child of theirs. I've always liked children, but he was the only one I ever really had a chance to get to know.
I believe that children should be taken from their parents at an early age and brought up by the state. The whole idea of family life is sentimental, contemptible fiction.
Still, I like that baby. It'll be another burden I have to bear, not seeing him again. I wish he'd go away.
You can't kill him now, Max. Give him a chance. Please, Max, this is Lucille. You must listen to me. Open the door and listen to me. What else do you want him to do, Max? What else is he supposed to do to prove he's your friend? He attacked Danton. What else is he supposed to do? You can't kill him! Are you mad? Camille's the only friend you've got! What do you think you're doing? You stink of blood! You're a murderer!
Now she has to die, too.
Come on. You wouldn't want it to come out now, would you? It would be dangerous for her. Camille?
Yes?
The executioner's here, sir.
Thank you, guys, sir.
In the first tumbril, there's a correction. Thierry killed himself last night.
Oh.
If you just initial the deletion. And on this copy.
All right, sir. Thank you. Oh, by the way, sir. You remember that fellow Dacier yesterday? Said he'd only come up to Paris this week.
No, I don't remember him.
Tall fellow, dark. Said he wanted to see you.
Oh, yes, there was something, but I was busy at the ministry. I didn't see him. Why?
Well, he kept saying he'd only come up to Paris to sell his father's house.
No, I don't know about it.
Well, he was right, sir. It was his cousin he wanted.
Dacier? Dacier? No, what initial?
No, the one yesterday was called Jules, sir.
Dacier. Dossier Jacques Albert, confectioner.
One yesterday was a farmer, sir.
He was probably guilty anyway, but I'll make another entry.
There was a fellow in the tumbril from the same village, sir.
And luckily there's a space here I can use. The important thing is to keep the files correct.
Too true, sir.
Dossier Jules.
I wonder when men are free to look back on all this. What bits they'll remember. What they'll make of it all.
What was tide and what was just waves. Europe will never be the same again, we know that. At least we think we know that.
No, it won't be the same. Never again will a king believe that he can do what he likes with his people just because God put him there.
As we got rid of a political superstition, but is Robespierre any better than poor Louis?
Little men, both of them little men.
The power of reason and the power of the people are one and the same thing. I wrote that. Is it true?
Well, the people will learn one day. At least now they only have themselves to blame.
But how are they going to control Robespierre?
Give them time.
Revolution's like a dog with rabies, snapping at anything that moves.
Snapping at itself.
Must be something we all want. Whatever our differences. If only we'd been able to persuade Robespierre of that.
Well, I tried. When I went to see the little eunuch a few months ago. I tried to make him realize that the only way to save France was to unite inside the Republic. It was like going to bed with a snake. I tried. Men like Carrier in Brittany. He's a lunatic, raving lunatic. Now 500 children driven into a field and shot. Then stripping men and women naked, tying them together, and then drowning them, what he calls Republican marriages.
I propose to try these men for their crimes if they have committed any. You know that.
They should never have been entrusted with power. They shouldn't have power now. At Nantes alone, 6,000 people drowned. Old women, children, babies, everybody. And Le Bon at Arras, sitting on his balcony with his wife watching the executions. Day after day, people chosen by... what's his phrase? By their wealth and by their talents.
What you seem to be implying is that the government should have acted earlier.
Of course it should have.
Then you are openly criticizing the government?
You are willing to stop these lunatics, aren't you?
Of course, if they have committed any crimes. But you must realize the difference between means and ends. Some of these men have perhaps overstepped their authority. Their means have been suspect.
Suspect!
And in an atmosphere of calm self-criticism, we will assess them. But we must not prejudge their achievement.
For God's sake, day after day, people chosen, executed, the innocent and the guilty. I'm not saying that the administrators are not inspired by your idea of virtue. All I'm trying to say is that in some slipshod bureaucratic chaos, nobody is bothering, nobody has time to sort out the innocent from the guilty before they're executed. That's all, man.
And who told you that a single innocent person has perished?
Oh, Max, are you saying that not one innocent person has been executed?
I am saying that if they have been tried by society and found guilty, that means logically that they are guilty. That is the definition of proof of guilt.
Listen, at this moment, while we're talking, there are 73 members of Parliament under arrest. You know them as well as I do. Every one of them is among those who created the revolution. Release them. They risked their lives for liberty. Go on, give it to them.
The only way to establish liberty is to cut off the heads of criminals like them.
And they are friends and mine. Well. You cannot govern by terror! Terror is not a substitute for trust! Don't you say that? God, if the people don't trust you, if they don't love the country that we're trying to make for them, if all you have to offer them is words, 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 and the guillotine for anyone who dares to ask why, they'll not only destroy you, they'll destroy everything we've tried to do since we tore down the Bastille.
You're obviously upset. I think you should go away and think very carefully about your position.
Oh, I know my position, Max. I know it.
Your theatrical gestures are only making you look ridiculous.
Let's try to forget where we differ. Let's just look at what we think is important. Let's look at nothing else but our country and what it needs.
I have never been accused of acting in any other interest.
Well, I believe that our first job is to restore the respect of Europe. Regain it. When we overthrew the old order, every liberal in Europe hailed us. Now, 4 years later, they hate us. Once we are respected outside France, then the Republic will be loved inside France by men who are now its enemies, whom we have to punish.
With your principles and your morals, nobody would find any enemies to punish.
You'd regret that, wouldn't you? You really would regret not having any enemies to find to punish. Now listen, this isn't doing anybody any good at all. It doesn't matter what we've disagreed about in the past. We both want the same things. We both want France to be strong and free. We both believe that what Hébert stands for must be destroyed. Come on, let's put all these resentments behind us. Let's judge men by what they do, not by what we think their motives are. Now, come on. Even then, I didn't realize, you see. I didn't realize that he'd bracketed me with Hébert. I assumed Hébert was one side of the fence and I was the other. I wanted to stop the terror, stop the massacres, make the people free. Hébert wanted the terror to go on, the slaughter to go on, terrorize the people forever. So as far as I was concerned, he was the opposite pole of me. What I didn't realize was that as far as Robespierre was concerned, we were both enemies. Neither of us believed in virtue, the sin for which there is no absolution. I didn't believe in virtue because I thought it was funny. Hébert didn't believe in it because he was evil.
I never understood why you didn't stop him. Well, when we were fighting on the frontiers, perhaps we didn't hear everything that was going on. Maybe you tried. But we all got the impression that you never really fought Robespierre.
It's like trying to fight a fog all this time.
It's Robespierre who should be here. You ought to have fought him earlier. You ought to have demanded his head.
I thought enough heads had fallen, man.
Well, in the army, we felt there were enough enemies to fight as it was without fighting each other.
Everybody knew what Robespierre was trying to do.
No, nobody knew. All right, people tried to warn me. Well, where was the proof?
We're the proof! Here now!
Yes, here now! Here now! We can see a pattern, but Robespierre's like a death watch beetle. Just a slight clicking sound, and then all of a sudden everything falls down in your head.
I'm to blame. He could never have attacked you if I hadn't helped him.
No, you say that! He was Robespierre's little lapdog. Up, Camille! Go and get him, Camille! Bite him! That's a good dog! And him!
I said I was to blame. I said...
I knew it would have been somebody else.
I didn't understand, you see. I didn't realise where it was all leading.
Nobody
When
did.
I attacked Hébert, I'd no idea Robespierre would then go on to attack you.
No. It was my fault. I was tired. No, I was too tired to fight him. That's why I went back to my farm. The harvest was in, the land was fresh and clean, crisp. Anyway, that's when I came back to these innuendos, whispers. That's why I made my mistake, you see. Was I going to let people lie behind my back? Oh, no, I would challenge them in public. That's just what Robespierre was waiting for. And who says I am no longer a true Republican? Have I changed? Is that what you think? Am I no longer the man you swore to follow? To hell if I demanded it of you. What are these charges? What does any man here dare accuse me of? Because I defy anyone to prove one of these so-called accusations against me. I defy envy, I defy malice to produce one tittle of evidence that I have ever been anyone but the man I am. A man who loves France, a man who loves the people of France, and a man who will die for them and for their liberty.
Mr. Chairman. Chairman, fellow members, I would like to support Danton. If Danton demands an investigation into his conduct and believes it will help him,
Surely it is only just that we have such an investigation. I, for one, feel it only fair to comply with this request. If Danton wishes the crimes with which he has been charged to be brought out into the open, to be specified, I feel it is our duty to listen to them. I shall now try to enumerate them. Danton, there are many accusations, but I'm sure that you have an answer ready for them. And I am here to defend you. It has been suggested that when you went to Switzerland, you went laden with the spoils of your corruption. It has been said, but I'm sure that you have an explanation for this, that you left much of this money, which is after all the people's money, not yours, in Switzerland, ready for you and your family when you abandoned the revolution. But I'm sure, Danton, that you have an answer ready for this. Some people even say that you were leading a conspiracy to restore the Dauphin and to make him Louis XVII. They say that an agreement had been reached between you and the royalists that you were to be regent until the Dauphin reached an age to govern. I can well see how such an idea might appeal to any man, particularly if later you were able to retire to Switzerland, where so much of the people's money was waiting in your name. No, I am here to defend Danton. I am here to help him define the accusations made against him, for I'm sure that he has an answer ready for each and every one of them. The charge that he is involved in the swindle over the East India Company, at first sight one might suppose that he would be. After all, it is his friends like Fabre d'Eglanty who are most deeply implicated, but of course he will have an answer. I may be wrong about Danton, but I have seen him, not just in his political life, but surrounded by his family. And I assure you, when he is surrounded by his family, his behavior would serve as an example for us all. I may be wrong. My friendship for him may have led me to false conclusions, but he has always had an answer ready for every charge that has ever been thrown against him. Admittedly, he seemed unwilling to denounce Brissot when it became clear what his true policies were. It is also true that he seemed not to suspect his friend Dumouriez, who abandoned the armies of which he was the leader and deserted to the Austrians. I admit I warned him about these men, but who am I to say that these events, for which I am sure he has an explanation, who am I to say that they prove that he has betrayed his country? He's always seemed to be serving it most zealously. I do not wish to take up your time listing all the accusations against Danton, for I'm sure that when he is called upon to answer them, however many there are, however strong they seem, he will have answers. I say Danton is right. He wishes to be put on trial. Let me be put on trial too. Let us do what Danton wants. Let all those people who have anything to say against Danton now come forward. Let us hear these accusations, and let us hear the explanations he will give us. Let us judge him, for it is Danton who asks to be tried. And as his friend, I urge you to grant his wish, and to let the people know these accusations, and to hear the answers that he will have ready for them, and then, and only then, to decide who are the guilty men and what their fate must be.
All right. On your feet.
Time?
Yes, sir.
I'm not going. You can't make me.
Go on, sir. I see you've done yourself already, sir.
Hope you don't mind.
Anything to save me work, sir?
I demand a retrial. I wasn't allowed to speak.
Shut up!
This isn't justice. We're entitled to be heard. Do you know who I am? You can't treat me like this.
Let me deal with this.
I'm a great man.
Fabre. Now, you said yourself that the people won't let us die, didn't you?
Yes.
If you're right. There's nothing to worry about, is there? So for God's sake, behave like a man. Come on.
Crowd outside?
Yes, sir. Same old face as usual, sir.
No signs of trouble?
No, sir. I'm sorry.
I wish now I'd died on the frontier. At least one knew who the enemy was.
Prisoners aren't allowed to make treasonable speeches.
Yes, quite right. Why didn't you report him, stop the execution, and have him retried again?
I've been a soldier since I was 16. I've got 7 wounds in the front. I was never stabbed in the back until now.
I've 2 brothers who served under you, sir.
Huh? Oh, what regiment?
107th, both of them, sir. Me too, I was with the mob on the 10th of August.
Good Republican family.
Sir.
Huh?
On the 10th of August, when we drove the king out the palace, you stepped forward, you spoke the Swiss Guard.
Yeah?
Why, sir?
Well, the point was that the king was here with the palace walls, and here outside with the mob. We had to get the king outside. It was the only way. Well, with all due respect, the mob wasn't much of an army. There was no discipline and very few weapons. And inside were 1,500 Swiss guards, the best fighting troops in Europe. Well, as I say, the mob may have been a bit unreliable, but there were a lot of them. They could look pretty frightening. From a distance, anyway. So, as I spoke German, I thought I'd try and talk the Swiss into coming out, if we withdrew. But they insisted on obeying their orders. Pity. We took the palace in the end, of course. Cost several hundred lives.
It was the greatest moment of my life, sir.
Yeah, if the troops in the palace had fought like the Swiss did, we wouldn't have stood a chance. As it was, there were walls here and all round here which stopped the Swiss from deploying. Otherwise, we'd never have done it. You finished?
Yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, you. On your feet.
Can't I just finish this?
What's that?
A letter to my wife.
Prisoners aren't allowed to write letters.
Rubbish.
Never has been.
Damn it, man! I was the man who made up the law under which we've been arrested.
Yes.
And it says nothing about writing letters.
That could be a treasonable message.
For a moment I have been sleeping, and heaven has pity on me. For in sleep one is free. I saw you in a dream and held you in my arms, and you and our little son who had come to visit us. But our son had lost an eye, and my unhappiness awoke me. I have tried to be a good husband and a good son. I think I would have been a good father. Oh, my beloved Lucille, I was born to write poetry, to defend the helpless, to make you happy. Yes, I suppose that is treason to Robespierre.
Let him finish. I cut his hair first. Don't be too long, sir.
I demand the right to defend myself!
Sanson, how many of us are there today?
2 jumpers, sir. 15 in all. You lot will be in the last.
Together.
I should imagine so, yes, sir.
Should make it easy.
Sir. Sir. I don't know whether it means anything to you gentlemen or not, sir, but last 2 days I've noticed someone in the crowd. I haven't seen anything, you know, it's more my job's worth, but everyone else, they're watching the execution. I'm looking over their heads, and I notice this hand comes up in the crowd, gives the absolution, sir.
Thank you, I'll tell them. Thank you.
I haven't seen anything official, you understand?
No, of course not.
You know, I know it's important to some people, sir, if they haven't made their last confession. I don't know who it is. Just this hand comes up, gives the absolution, sir.
Thank you, Sanson, thank you.
I'm ill. Can't you see I'm ill?
We'll soon cure you, that, sir.
Well, there'll be no proper trial, there'll be no justice, the whole thing's a mockery!
Oh, he's bloody out still.
Let us at least try to die with dignity.
Sanson! The order arranged the other side.
Yes, sir.
What is it?
Well, we got a sense to the theatre, sir. You lot are last.
Just over there, that's where I had my first digs when I moved to Paris.
How long ago was that?
5 years ago. Well, we can't complain. We've achieved more in 5 years than most people do in 100. Sanson! This is quite a sentimental journey for me. All my old haunts. Just over there is the Café Panas. Down there. That's where I courted Gabrielle. The father owned that. She used to sit on a high stool in front of the cashier's desk. And all the down-and-out young lawyers in Paris like me used to hum around her like flies round a dung heap. She was all woman. It's my Gabrielle. My Gabrielle. My Gabrielle. Anyway, I'd never have got started if it hadn't been for her dowry. When my family came to Paris for the wedding, they kept going round our rooms and touching everything, fingering everything, and I had an old aunt, and all she could mutter was, "It's real linen, it's real linen." How different everything would have been if she'd married somebody else.
France might still be a monarchy.
Ah, yes.
We might not be here.
That's the point. Would you have wanted it any differently? My God, what a time to have been alive.
They won't rescue us now, will they?
No, not a chance. Hey, we're coming up to Robespierre's flat. Sanson is allowed to sing.
Sing, sir?
Yes, sing.
I don't know. I've never had anyone want to sing before, sir.
Good, so long as it's not specifically forbidden. Testament. Oh, who's this little man the people fear? Robespierre, Robespierre, Robespierre. This very little man who is the reason we are here. Robespierre, Robespierre, Robespierre. Who has neither guts nor brains, who has water in his veins. Robespierre, Robespierre, Robespierre. Who denies his people bread? Who will shortly lose his head? Robespierre! 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 Who's the eunuch king of France? Who's the eunuch king of France? Robespierre! Robespierre! Robespierre!
You see what they're doing? Save us! Don't let them kill us! Save us!
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up. I shall have to bind your hands, sir. Try not to show any fear, sir.
Don't be ridiculous.
People! They've lied to you! We're your servants, not your enemies!
Keep the rabble alone!
Why are they coming?
Come here!
There's no shed tears for the murdered you!
Leave them alone. They won't have you now. Shut up.
You're murdering the leaders of France! I am Fabre d'Églantine! Don't let them kill me!
Are you all right? You got the locket? Good.
You were right. If Christ were the next to go, they wouldn't lift a finger.
No, you mustn't blame them. Now they're drunk with blood. They'll be sick of it soon. Be a fine day tomorrow. Lovely day. I've ordered them on the farm to sow the spring wheat, and they get a few evenings like this. Yes, it'll end. It has to.
When?
Soon. You can confuse the people with an ideal for just so long. They'll say we suffered this for liberty. We have no liberty. They say we suffered it for food. We're still hungry. For justice. Yet every day we see a slaughter when there has been no trial. Well, one day they'll turn, my God, they will, and then it will be Robespierre who stands here where we are now. Robespierre, Saint-Just, Couton, Ducré. And Robespierre will turn that look of his upon them, glaring through those affected little glasses of his, and nobody will be afraid anymore. And Saint-Just will descend once again from Mount Sinai with the authentic gospel of virtue, and will be so surprised when nobody pays any bloody attention at all. I've got an itch. I must have picked something up in the jail. Oh. With my pigs, I used to cut up a tree stump, cut it up rough for them to scratch themselves against. Otherwise, they kept knocking their fences down. I like pigs. They look so bloody funny when they're mating. So do human beings when you think of it. That's what I'm really going to miss, is the sheer, broad farce of life. And power. Down at power. I'm leaving everything in the hell of a mess, aren't I? It's better to be a half-starved fisherman than try to govern people. And the whole business, it's a comedy. See, Fabre was right. Remember, Fabre? Between the giving and the taking of snuff, there is a comedy. You know what they're performing tonight at the opera, don't you? The 10th of August, a play all about us. And this mob that's come to watch us have our heads chopped off, tonight that very mob will go and watch and cheer actors pretending to be us. Acting out all the things that we did. And tonight we are heroes again. Not even Fabre could have thought I could talk like that, could you?
Come on now, sir. I've got to get finished before it's dark. There's no time for goodbyes.
Whatever you do, Sanson, you'll never stop our heads meeting in the basket.
Colonel Westerman.
Show them my head. It'll be well worth it, man.